All right, guys, thanks for joining. This is top franchise models for W-2 employees. And so over the last 26 years, I've worked in lending, owned a real estate franchise, own a couple small businesses right now, and I work originating SBA loans, and then I also have a franchise consulting business. And I've worked with lots of entrepreneurs, lots of aspiring entrepreneurs. You know, lately, it's been kind of a common theme. There's like a couple different avatars. There's the people that just hate their job, and then there's the people that are actually like their jobs, but they're doing really well and they don't have any tax strategy, and they're unsure of the economy, and they really like to build legacy while keeping their W-2 job. And that's kind of why we're tailoring today's presentation, because there's a lot of people I talk to on a daily basis. You know, different people book calls with me. You know, I could think of a couple, they're both doctors and they're making $500,000 a year living in California. And it's hard for them to save money. And those kind of conversations kind of really resonate with me, because it's like, there's got to be a better way. And that's really why I believe that everyone should own a small business, whether it's a franchise, whether it's a startup business, whether you do a business acquisition. Like W-2 employees, corporate workers, get taxed the worst. You don't have any tax write-offs. Owning a small business really opens up the doors to a lot for you. Not only can you build something that eventually you can walk away from the corporate world if you chose to, you're going to have the tax benefits of these different business models. You're also going to be able to set up self-directed retirement accounts like solo 401ks and different retirement accounts, which also act as tax deferment and things like that. So there's a lot of benefits. The tax code was definitely written for small business owners, not for workers. So to get kind of the best of both worlds, you take your W-2 job where you're doing fairly well, but you're paying a lot in taxes. You strap on or bolt on a business, and then you get kind of the best of both worlds. You have the security from the W-2 job to help ramp up the business, and then you get the tax benefits. So let's kind of dive into a little bit more about this. My name is Bo Eckstein, for those of you who don't know me. We put on webinars quite often. You can go to boeckstein.com/events and you can sign up for any events you want. Most of them are free. I have 26 years of lending experience. I'm a business ownership coach. We help people buy franchises and franchise resales. I own a couple businesses: California real estate broker, Nevada salesperson, SBA loan advisor, and I have podcasts that I host. My mission is to help 10,000 aspiring entrepreneurs become successful business owners over the next 10 years. And I actually scratched that out because I realized that's not that big of an accomplishment. What I mean by that is that I don't need to one-on-one coach somebody, because my podcast, if you go to YouTube, you can type in Investor Financing Podcast. Between all the videos and things like that I put out in the webinars and the events that I host, I think I definitely could touch 100,000 people and help them become business owners. I'm a member of FBA, which is Franchise Brokers Association. I'm also a member of NAGL, which is the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders. Kind of my background with the lending first, and then got into the business coaching. I realized there was a lack. People would come to me for financing opportunities, and they were like, you know, I'm interested in Auntie Anne's pretzel business, this franchise. And this was before I got into the franchise business. I would always ask, well, why this franchise? And like, well, I like the pretzels. And then I discovered the whole world of franchises. And, you know, there's well over 3,000 franchises out there. And the thing that I realize is it's the non-brick and mortar type of franchise models, the non-food franchise models, typically have a lower startup costs and better profit potential. And you can run them. Some of these businesses are home-based business models, meaning you don't need a brick and mortar location. Obviously, some of them you need warehouse space and so forth. So today's objective is really to kind of give you a high-level overview of business ownership from the franchise perspective. Like I said, I can help you not only with franchises. If you want to start a business, if you want to do a business acquisition, I wear two hats with the lending and the business coaching. So any which way I can provide value to you, I will definitely do that. And if you want to learn more about SBA, we do workshops and things, but you can also go to our YouTube channel. And I think you can just go there by going to investorfinancing.tv. It will take you to the YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist on SBA financing. You can learn about business startups, what kind of loan to cost can you do. But there is no better business financing product out there than SBA loans. On a business acquisition, you can get 90% of the total cost. Business expansion, some of the banks will lend 100% to expand to other territories, other locations. For startups, for franchises, we can generally lend 80 to 90% of total investment startup costs, including working capital. So it's really a high leverage product. Granted, these loans are based on Wall Street Journal Prime and rates are up a little bit, but at the end of the day, the cost of money will come back down. And if you're buying into a good business model, then the rate really doesn't matter. When I used to flip a lot of houses and I would borrow money at 12% and 2 or 3 points, I'd say, man, this money is expensive. But then, if I was successful and I got a check for $30 or $40 or $50,000 when I sold the property, I'd say, well, I didn't mind spending a little extra to get ahead in life. And I realized everything is just pricing in, and actually borrowing debt typically is a lot cheaper than bringing in a partner. But on SBA financing too, which is nice, is that you can bring in an investor partner that owns less than 20%, and they can go they don't have to go on the loan as a guarantor. So SBA is a really great tool, and it's probably 10 or 15% of all SBA loans are probably franchise type loans. So franchising and SBA go together very well. So that's a little bit about me. I look forward to meeting all of you at some point here. So the power of franchise ownership. So why a franchise? Well, most of the time they're proven business models. Now there's franchise models with 500, 800 locations. There's franchise models that are emerging, which might only have 5 or 10 locations, it's not a bad thing if it's more of an emerging franchise, but we're going to learn as we go that these are things we're going to look at as we're kind of understanding the differences on the franchises. A lot of the franchises in the home service industry, they have big parent companies that are sometimes multi-billion-dollar companies that own a conglomerate of franchises. The other nice thing is flexibility. Owning a franchise, you can really do your homework and find a business model that best aligned with your skill sets and your lifestyle. So you can find a business that maybe it's just a solo business, or maybe it's a subcontractor model where you don't need many employees. Maybe you don't need a brick and mortar location, or maybe you do want to own a brick and mortar location. These business models can be designed to be semi-absentee, where you work on the business, not in the business. Generally, when we're talking about semi-absentee franchise models, you're still going to spend 10 to 25 hours a week on the business to some capacity. And then there's also managed models, and we're going to get into some of that a little bit. So the other reason why a lot of people talk about business acquisition, right? Business acquisition, boring businesses, that kind of thing. And yes, is business acquisition a good business model? It definitely can be. Sometimes the reason I like the franchise startup a little bit better is it's usually a lower initial investment. It's a little bit more on the ramp up because you're taking a business and you're starting in that particular market. But you're building a lot of equity as you build revenue into the business, and you're building the business the way you want it built, and you're not taking on disgruntled employees or things that you're unaware of from the previous owner. So that's kind of the reason franchising sometimes makes sense for some people, right? Franchising is not for everybody, but I do believe that it is for a lot of people out there. Like, even if you own an existing business or two, you're seeing people understand the power of franchising to be able to invest into systems and processes and marketing and branding. And then also, we're going to talk about tax benefits. Remember, I'm not a CPA or a tax attorney of any sort. I don't claim to be one. But what I do is I investigate and I learn from other people. And if you're going to learn about the power of Section 179 and bonus depreciation. You're going to learn about how that can affect you. Just earlier today, I was talking to a gentleman, and him and his wife are very successful in their corporate careers. And he's like, he heard me on a podcast. I need tax strategy. I need to own an operating business. And my thesis has become, because my background is real estate investing, my thesis has become the triangle. And the triangle method is basically tax strategy, real estate ownership, and operating businesses. Like, to me, that is the perfect equation of like getting wealthy over time and having the best of both worlds, right? You want the tax write-offs, you want to be able to be strategic, and that's what we try to do. So we have vendors that we work with that specialize in small business owners as CPAs, franchise attorneys, vendors that help you figure out what business entities to set up. All these things are very important to figure out from a tax perspective as well. And that's like my goal every year is to go, okay, like, what do I need to plan for? Am I going to have a big taxable event? Am I selling real estate that I'm not 1031 exchanging? What can I do to strategize to, keep more money, right? Because it's not about how much money you make. It's what's left over. And let's go on to the next types of business ownership. Okay, so we got the owner operator, which means, hey, I'm going to run this business. I'm going to be there every day. I'm going to be doing the hand-to-hand. I might not be painting the houses, but I'm going to be involved heavily there as an owner operator. Semi-absentee, that's where you're working on the business, not in the business. You might be spending 20, 25 hours, 15 hours. You're good at delegating, you're managing. That's where I see a lot of the people I'm working with are they need to be in the semi-absentee because they're not ready to go owner. They don't want to go into the business full time where they're there every day. They need something that they can do with their hybrid work schedule. And then there's fully absentee. But I believe that nothing is really fully absentee. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to hire the right people. You're in charge of the books. You're overall in charge of the money you borrow. So in the beginning, you're going to be setting up a lot of this, but you can, through systems and processes and through investing into a good franchise system, you can definitely be semi-absentee or fully absentee, but you just need to know how the business works and know the good, the bad, the ugly, right? Because not everything is, hey, I'm just going to make an investment and forget about it like a rental property. Hey, I'm going to buy this long-term rental. I'm going to get ABC property management company to manage the property, and I just look at my invoice or my statement the property manager sends every month. This is a moving, living, breathing organism that needs you to build culture, to hire the right people, to make this business grow and thrive. So just remember that this isn't just park some money. It's a business. It's got a lot more moving. I'm going to show you a quick video real quick.
Hey there, I'm Ben Torrey with Screenmobile. I'm the Director of Franchise Development here at Screenmobile, and I am inside our fantastic training center. And I want to chat briefly about the 3 different types of business ownership as it relates to franchising. What you need to understand is as you're looking for your own franchise, one of the things you have to ask yourself is, how committed do I want to be? Am I going to be there every single day? Am I going to be there half-time? Or am I going to hire somebody to manage this business for me? So again, the point of this brief conversation is just to highlight the 3 different types of business ownership that we see in franchising. So the first type of owner is the owner-operator. What does that mean? Well, in our case here at Screenmobile, the owner-operator would be somebody who's showing up every day, either on the truck and trailer, collecting checks from the customers, installing the work, scheduling the jobs. That would be the owner-operator relationship. Maybe they have an employee or 2 that's supporting them out in the field as well, but they are in the business every single day. The second type of owner is a semi-absentee owner. Perhaps they're working the back office every day. They come in, they check the schedule for the day, they check receivables, they make sure everything's caught up on the scheduling, but they're not necessarily out, especially in our case at Screenmobile, they're not out in the field every single day meeting with the customers and doing the installs. Again, they may deal with a customer complaint or a customer resolution issue, but ultimately they are going to be more in the behind the scenes of the business. The final type of business ownership is the fully absentee owner. And here again, as it relates to Screenmobile, if you're a fully absent owner, then, or absentee as we would call it, then what we require is for you to hire what's called a designated manager or a key person. That key person is going to be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the business while you're an absentee owner somewhere else. But from our perspective, we need to know that somebody is keeping an eye on that business on a daily basis. So hiring that key person and ensuring that they are well trained in this wonderful training facility is going to be the difference between the success of your business as an absentee owner and the potential failure of that business. So again, hiring the right key person is going to be the difference between success and failure as an absentee owner. So coming back to it, looking at the 3 types of ownership, we have owner-operator out in the field every day. We have semi-absentee, primarily focused on back office activities. And then we have the fully absentee owner who's going to hire a really critical key person to manage the day-to-day functions of their business. So if you're interested in getting into a Screamobile business and you're looking at one of these 3 models, we'd love to hear from you and talk more about how we can ensure your success in any 3 of those levels.
Next, we're going to go into kind of like the franchise process, and we're going to open up this PowerPoint. And so we call this the franchise research process. This is kind of the process that one would go through to, I think, get a good understanding of what's out there for them specifically. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to take, typically what we recommend is you take a quiz that we have created, which helps us and it helps you. It sends you back a scoring of like your business readiness. We start there, and then we usually like to have a discovery call after that. And the discovery call is really getting to know you, understanding what you do for a living, your work schedule, what you like, what you don't like. And from there, we're trying to put together like a thesis of what business models make the most sense. And then after we do that discovery call or that intake and you've done the initial quiz, we come back and obviously a component in a conversation we're having is what's your fundability, right? Funding consultation. Nice thing about working with our team is that I have a funding background, so I can give you good advisory tips, like does it make sense to do SBA, or maybe you have an old 401k, you could do a Rob's rollover, which might be eligible. So if you have an old 401k, it could be eligible to roll over, and some people do these rollovers and then use that as their equity injection or their down payment for an SBA loan, or sometimes they have enough to fund it themselves. Or perhaps you have a lot of equity in rental properties and you want to do a HELOC. We can talk about through all of that, and you can get a good idea of what investment range you're capable of, right? There's some of us on the call today that are low liquidity and they've got about 20 grand. Well, there's something out there for you that we can get you in. There's some of you out there that have a couple $1 million and you're looking to do something, right? There's something for everybody. And that's what I love. I love helping the person that's really kind of, getting by, right? They've worked hard, they're getting by, they're living in an expensive area like California on $60,000, $70,000. And it feels like you're not getting by, but we can help anybody, any walks of life, get into business ownership. And maybe you don't even have that kind of money, or you can't even raise it from a family member. You can get gift funds too, by the way. And maybe we have to think of a different strategy, like bootstrapping a business. And that's quite fine. There's people that have started, home service businesses for $500 out of pocket, and it became extremely successful. So we really just want to understand. I mean, ideally for a franchise, if you're coming into this market, you're going to need $20,000 or $30,000 really to get involved. You might not need to use all that funding, right? Because if we find a business model with working capital, franchise fee, all the initial startup costs of $100,000, well, I have a bank out there that will fund $90,000. They'll fund 90%. So we could get into a business for 10 grand out of pocket, potentially less, depending on the total investment range of that business. So understanding you is the most important part. Do you have a tax problem? Maybe you don't have the tax problem. Maybe you just need you need a cash flow. You need more income. So that's our thesis that we put together along with the funding. And then the next step after the funding. So after the funding and after we've done the discovery calls, we now are ready to, what we do on our team, there's a handful of us that work on our team as consultants. And then after we have all the information, we do what we call franchise research. And then we will research, and we're going to try to identify 7 to 10 different business models that would best align with what you're looking for. From there, we schedule a follow-up call or a Zoom meeting. That's about an hour. That's about an hour long. And that's we share videos, we share information on different franchise models. From that point, we always want you to select 3, because we want you to talk to we're going to give you on that initial business model review. We're going to give you a high level overview, but it's not nearly enough. We want to get you interested in 3 of the brands. We want you to speak to 3 of them. Remember, this is like no obligation. The only obligation that we ask for is a commitment of time, and that if you're interested in going through the process, that you go through the process, you show up on time for the calls, those kind of things, right? We're not asking for any money or anything. How we get paid, if you're wondering, is we get paid out of a marketing fee from the franchisor if you end up investing into a franchise. So once we do the business model review, you then speak with, hopefully, and it's not set in stone, but ideally we like the fact that you speak with 3, because the one you like the least could be the best business model for you, right? Once you started uncovering a lot of things. So at this point, you're just getting a lot of information. And then through this process, so you would have an initial call with one of the 3 brands, and we'd have you take some notes. And yeah, Bo, I like this brand. I like these 2, and I didn't like this one. Then we kindly, remove the search and we thank them for their time. And then you go down to the next step. So all of these franchises have multiple steps that you're going to go through the process with them. And what we do as consultants is we're going to give you checklists. We're going to give you some training videos on how to research and do due diligence, because due diligence is a big part of this. So there's something when you start to look at a franchise, they're going to send you something called a FDD. An FDD is a franchise disclosure document. It's a big, couple hundred pages. There's 23 items in this, and there's item 7, which is the investment range, low to high. There's item 19, which is earnings potentials. And so we're going to give you all the tips and tools you need to kind of get the baseline knowledge to start understanding this. We actually have a training video that an attorney did for us that works as a franchise attorney. And he gives you, it's like a deep dive on like things to look for in an FDD and just due diligence you should do. And then through this due diligence process, each of the franchises is going to have their own kind of, I'll call it a sales process, right? So that's really a discovery process, because ultimately they probably want you to invest in the franchise, but you have to learn. So it's not something like overnight you're going to go, I am buying this one. It's a process, and it could take you 6 weeks. It could take you 6 months. It could take you a year. And at the end of the day, you might decide, look, a franchise isn't the way I want to go. And that's perfectly okay. My goal is to have you have fun, learn a lot about different business models. And then at the end of the day, you're going to say, hey, Bo, thank you. You and your team did a great job. We learned a lot, but we decided, hey, we're going to bootstrap and start a business, or hey, we're going to look for a business acquisition. We also do resales. So we have a lot of franchises in our inventory where they've been running for 20 years, give or take 10 years, and the owner is ready to retire and they're selling the business. So we do have some resales that we also sometimes bring into the mix depending on, your unique situation. So that's the due diligence part. That's just briefly touching on it. There's a lot more to it, but part of the due diligence process is validation. So there's a lot of important parts of due diligence, but validation is this is as you further get down the due diligence pathway, you're going to then start making phone calls to other franchise owners that are owners of this system, and you're going to ask a lot of good questions. Of course, we provide checklists and we get you prepped to ask the right questions. This is where you can really deep dive on the good, the bad, the ugly. You can deep dive on the numbers, because the Federal Trade Commission, they kind of oversee franchising. That's why there's certain rules. You can't make earnings claims. You can't do certain things, right? Like, because you guys are investing into a potential business. So the validation process is where you're going to really get in. And obviously it's not like, hey, Mr. Franchise Owner, how much did you make last year? You got to build a rapport, but this is where you're going to really start uncovering things that are important. At the same time, because of my SBA background, when you're preparing a loan package for an SBA loan, you got to put together 3 years of projections. The first 2 years broken out month by month. Most people don't want to do this. And I agree, I hate spreadsheets, but I tell you what, this is where you're going to learn a lot about the business. How does the business make money? Let's say it's a handyman service, and every time they do a service call, the average service call, they invoice for $700. These are things we're going to ask. Well, one technician, how many service calls a day can they do? They can do 7. Okay, great. We start really backfilling and understanding how this business can make money and how it makes money. Obviously, we're going to find out about the franchise. How does it support you? Do they have a call center? Are they generating leads? Are they putting leads on your calendar? All this stuff is uncovered. So as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts, but it's not like you're got to make decisions quick. I mean, it's really at your pace, right? I've had some people that can move really quick. I have other people that want to take time, and that's fine. Nobody's going to pressure you. At least I'm not, right? I want you to just be educated and to learn, and hopefully to create legacy and own a business at some point. And that's my objective for you. And that's why I do these webinars. And I get excited to think that, one more person is closer to that $100,000 goal. I mean, 100,000, help 100,000 people. $100,000 goal is good too. Discovery day. So after you've done all your due diligence, the majority of it, you're pretty sure you want to move forward with this particular franchise. Well, the next thing is that they're gonna invite you if they think that it's a good match to discovery day. And this is kind of like towards the end of the process. This could be weeks or months later. And then you fly to corporate office. You might do a ride along. They have their own processes. And at the end of this discovery day, this is where the executive team would say, look, we would like to award you this territory, this franchise. And then at that point, hopefully you'd say, yes, we're ready to move forward. Then you get back home, you finalize your funding, you get a franchise attorney to review your franchise agreement, you button down all the last pieces, and then you move forward, or you decide it's not a good fit. But you're only typically going to discovery day if it's, if you're pretty sure it's the way to go and you're just doing your last couple things. You're not just going usually for, hey, I just want to check it out. So that's discovery day. And then what else do we have on this one? The next slide, please. And that's when you make your decision. They're gonna award you the franchise, and believe it or not, sometimes they don't award you a franchise. So most of the time they do if they're inviting you, but sometimes a colleague of mine was telling me about his candidates. He was dealing with the husband, and the husband was telling him that he's going to run the business. So the husband did all the calls with the franchise system. They liked him. They invited him to Discovery Day. His spouse came to Discovery Day, and apparently the spouse came in and said, hey, I'm going to be running the business. And they knew nothing of her, and she didn't fit the bill for them, and they actually turned him down. So it is a two-way street. You gotta show up on time. When you're setting up calls with them, they're evaluating you just like you're evaluating them. So that's the decisioning process. So top franchise models for W-2 employees. So there's a lot of sectors, and some of what we do in the initial discovery call and through the quiz is we're asking you questions. What industries do you like? What sectors do you like? Home service, health and wellness, QSR, which is quick serve restaurants, entertainment businesses, laundromats, dry cleaning, right? This is all the stuff we're uncovering to see because we're putting together the thesis for you, because then we're going to come back and remember we're going to do the business model review. So that's why the intake we do with you is very important, kind of understanding like you and like, what do you like to do? Have you ever run a team? Maybe at your corporate job, you run a team of 100 and you're super skilled. Maybe you're CFO. Maybe you're very introverted. Maybe you're very sales oriented. So like understanding you, and then maybe is your spouse going to be a part of it? Are you married or not? Right? Your partner going to be involved? Do you have children that are coming of age to be working? These are things we're uncovering. Do you have any hobbies? Oh, well, yeah, I actually like automotive, and I fix cars. I love anything automotive, right? And so these are the discovery things that we're asking, because sometimes we uncover something and like you're telling us one thing, but we realize that you didn't really realize what you were saying, and then we show you some other business models that open your mind to what's possible, right? Because there's, like I said, there's thousands of franchises, 3,000 plus franchises. I mean, typically, I generally work with about 50 different franchise concepts. I wouldn't say I work with like 3,000, but we do look at and explore each week. Just so you know, is what we do is we're usually learning 3 or 4 new franchises. We're meeting with the franchises. They're giving us kind of deep dives on who's a good candidate for them. what's a good fit, how the business model works, how it's doing, how their growth is looking. So this is all the stuff we do in the back end, which helps us, because matching somebody to, it's like dating, really. Dating, it's actually like dating, but marriage dating. It's not like non-committal dating, because when you invest in a business, it's a big commitment. So we take what we do very seriously, because it's like we gotta like really figure out and find that business model that's would be a good fit. Additionally, the one thing I will say too is, like, a lot of people get into their first business and then they go, wow, I like this at Semi-Absentee. And maybe they own, let's say that their first investment was a painting company. And now they're like, okay, we got this up and running. I see a lot of opportunity in this home service world. I'm going to own this other company that does epoxy flooring in garages, right? Because that's a simple business. And they start doing what we call multi-brand franchising, where they own a conglomerate of different franchise models. And it doesn't have to be home services. We have a lot of B2B models and things that are really good. What I look for in franchises, and I think some of you should, open your eyes to, is what makes a good franchise. So lots of choices, but how do we find the ideal business for you? And that's going back to what I said: time commitment, initial investment, support systems. Are you strong marketing, or you need a system that's going to market and put leads on your calendar? All these things are taking effect. Where you're located, because some markets have very little availability, because there's a lot of franchises that are taken. Because typically they're giving you some sort of territory size. Even if it's a home-based business, they're saying, okay, you're going to get a population of 250,000. They're going to go over the unit economics and how that all works. But so what we do is, as we're doing our initial research for you, we're doing territory checks. We're seeing what's available. So I might be looking at 20 or 30 different ideas for you. By the time I do territory checks and see what narrows down, there might be 10 left, right? So we're constantly doing that, and we have an internal system that links with the franchise, and they say yes, it's available, or no, it's not available, or hey, there's an alternative territory. So these are all the things that we're doing behind the scenes. How to fund your franchise. So loans under 500,000. So we're going to kind of do a deep dive on SBA real quick, and let's see, checking time here. We've got 25 minutes to go, so I'm going to try to do this quickly, as much information as we can. Loan amounts under 500,000. SBA does not make the loans. They guarantee a portion of the loan. Banks, credit unions, and non-bank SBA lenders make the loans. The SBA basically wants to really push business ownership, so they're incentivizing, and they want smaller SBA loans. So loan amounts under 500,000. They use something called the SBSS credit scoring model. It's a credit scoring model designed by FICO for specific to SBA. So essentially, you have to score on that. It's anywhere from 0 to 300. Typically, you need 155 or better. And then you score on that, and then so generally, if you have good credit, 680 or above, you have utilization 30% or below. So what is utilization? You have a credit card. You have a 10,000 high limit. If you're at 3,000 charged up, you're at 30% utilization. You want to keep your utilization 30% or lower, typically, on those type of things. And so we can finance up to 90% on small ticket franchises. Generally, most of the major banks we work with are about 80% loan to cost. That's franchise fee, working capital, all the startup costs. It's the investment range. We call it the loan to cost. So 80 to 90% of that can be financed. It's a 10-year term, no prepayment penalty. It's tied to Wall Street Journal prime rate plus a margin. So generally, right now, you're seeing rates from anywhere from 10 and a quarter to 11.75. 10 and a quarter to 11 and a quarter. Prime plus 275 is typically on a normal size loan is the typical highest margin. Now, if it's a smaller loan, there's some micro lenders that have higher margins, but most of the stuff we're doing is prime plus 2.75. If you're a really strong borrower, you can sometimes get better deals, a little bit better margin. Now, prime rate should come down over the next year or so, because 3 years ago, prime rate was at 4.5, give or take. Today, it's at 8.5. So really, it's a component of the franchise banks that aren't as concerned about post-close liquidity. There's a lot of variables. I'm trying to give you a high level. But essentially, one call with me, and I ask a lot of questions, and it takes you about 10 minutes. I have actually an intake form too. And I can figure out what lender would be most probable and what what you need to look like. But basically you need outside income that supports outside debt. You need a 680 credit score or better. You need 10 to 20% down payment and a little bit of reserves. You need to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Typically, you need to be investing in a franchise that's within the vicinity of where you live, especially if it's a startup. But that's really kind of the overview of SBA. It's actually pretty easy to get these loans, assuming that you have good credit and fit all those other characteristics. It's not that hard. Timelines, my fastest bank takes about 3 weeks. The average bank takes 45 to 60 days to close on a franchise loan, depending on how fast you move. I like to point out this website is section179.org. Go to this website when you get time, section179.org. Learn about Section 179. Learn about bonus depreciation. There's even a calculator there. You can see it on the tab, Section 179 calculator. So the whole thesis of the conversations I have almost on a daily basis is, look, you have the W-2 income here, $300,000 a year. I'm paying $100,000 in taxes. Okay, well, you're gonna invest in a business. You're gonna set up some sort of pass-through entity, and then you're gonna get a business that's gonna have some write-offs. Maybe they have some trucks that you're buying or some machines, and then you're gonna go to that calculator. You're gonna get a good idea of what potentially could be an offset to that W-2 income. So yes, you can. So, if I knew I was gonna have a taxable event, maybe I'm not W-2, maybe I'm self-employed, but I'm gonna pay taxes. I could go buy $100,000 of vending machines and potentially offset that $100,000 I'm gonna have to pay in. Now, bonus depreciation used to be 100%. Now it's 60%. So you got to play around with the calculator and then get a good CPA. I'm not a CPA or tax attorney, but these are the strategies that you can utilize so you can keep at the end of the year. Maybe you're W-2'd, right? You paid in $100,000 of taxes. Well, maybe you can get most, if not all of that back to a certain extent, right? And so that is the objective from a tax standpoint. So instead of you going, how much more can I make in my W-2? It's like, hey, let's own a business. Let's keep more of that $100,000 I was going to pay in taxes. And let's take that extra $100,000 cash flow now and reinvest that into real estate or reinvest it into other businesses. I see, like, if you spend the time to actually start like asking questions to good CPAs, first of all, get a good CPA that works with small business owners. Learn these strategies to a high level. You don't have to be an expert, but just learn enough so you can ask the right questions. And I guarantee you're going to be like, wow, all these years that I've been working and paying 50, 60. I have a client right now, he makes $2 million a year W-2. And I looked on his statement and he paid like just under $1 million in taxes. I'm like, man, you need to own some businesses. It's like, you need some short-term rentals and you need to own some businesses. So that's really the power of the triangle. The triangle, I don't know why I call it the triangle, but it's basically the triangle method. I'm going to name it. Tax strategy, operating business, real estate investments, right? Let's do these collectively with the triangle method, and you will grow wealthier quicker than not doing it this way. And so check out that website when you get some time, section179.org. We also, on our YouTube channel, we've interviewed some CPAs specific on our Business Ownership Summit. By the way, if you go to businessownershipsummit.com, you can go to our Business Ownership Summit. We're going to actually have franchise systems presenting their brands. That's not till October. So, but just to put it on your radar, businessownershipsummit.com, or go to the Eventbrite page if you want to come to that. They're fun. This is our third one. We do them quarterly. Balancing your job and franchise, like obviously, if you're gone, if you're already working 80 or 100 hours a week and have no time, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Maybe there's two of you, maybe your spouse. We gotta get on an intake call, discovery call. Let me ask some questions to see like how we can make it work. Because ideally, maybe you guys can team up, or maybe there's two friends, right? It doesn't have to be a husband or wife. It doesn't have to be a relationship in that sense. It could be two friends. It could be I talked to my dad about, let's do something together, right? It could be a family member, somebody you can work with and grow a business together, doesn't it? And maybe you can share time. You got to be a good delegator. Delegation is key. We work with a lot of virtual assistants, our group. So they do a lot of our editing of the videos, list building and stuff. So being able to delegate and being able to find the right staff, hire the right people, build culture. And then obviously now with technology, it's amazing what we can do, right? We can, with AI and everything, a lot of these franchise systems have really good technology, their point of sale system, how they quote jobs. This is all the things you're going to find out as you kind of go through the process. So financial benefits, we don't have to like kind of hash on this. Look, owning a business, operating business, you're going to create more cash flow. You can have better write-offs. You're going to diversify if you got laid off with the economy, right? And now you're stuck. And now you got 2 income streams. Now you got 1. So now when you own your own business and you invest in a business model that's recession resilient or recession-proof, it's going to make money, right? So we're going to look at business models that no matter what the economy does, your services are needed. Your business is needed. And of course, when you create more revenue in the business, this business is a sellable asset. So we look for business models that have recurring revenue. Maybe they have some kind of national accounts. But as you build this business, the revenue and the net income, it's going to be a sellable asset. And so you're not only getting all the other benefits, just like real estate, you get appreciation, you get depreciation, you get mortgage pay down. Same thing with the business, you get so many other value adds. So anyways, I talked for a while, but I'm going to hold to our 1 hour time frame here. So the next step is very simple. Go to businessownershipcoach.com/quiz. Take the quiz, and then you'll get in the follow-up response, there's a calendar link. Just book a discovery call. We can talk. And then also in about 20 or 30 minutes, we're going to send out an email. Please tune into the podcast. I think you'll learn a lot too. I have a whole playlist on SBA and on franchise. Feel free to kind of start educating yourself a little bit more. I hope it was worth your time. Thanks for all of you who stayed on. Most of you stayed on for the majority. So thank you. I appreciate it. We have a lot of upcoming events, and thank you so much. And we'll see you soon, hopefully very soon. Hi guys, Bo Exine here, and I'm with Baby Bo. Baby Bo is just a little over 4 months. He's my first child, my wife and I. So if you want to create legacy for your family, I highly suggest you go to our Business Ownership Summit. You can find all the events we're doing. Primarily, they're all free. You can go to boexstein.com/events. And I hope to see you at one of our events. We teach business ownership, how to leverage SBA financing, tax strategies. I'm not a CPA and an attorney, but we bring CPAs on. You're going to learn why everyone should own a small business. So I hope you attend. Go to boexstein.com/events. I'll see you at the next one. Hey guys, Bo Exine here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.